Good evening. This is BelGeode, and we are back with some more X-Plane 11 in virtual reality. Howdy folks, and we are back with some more X-Plane 11, and tonight I'm going to begin a full tour of the state of Florida. We have the brand new Orbx, TrueEarth, Florida. And for our first leg, we are here in Pensacola at Pensacola Naval Air Station. So for our first leg, we are going to be flying from here in Pensacola a little bit to the east, and we are going to be landing in Tallahassee, the state capital of Florida. Our chariot for this evening is going to be the gorgeous Siai Marchetti S-211 by the infamous Dino Cattaneo, otherwise known as India Fox Techo online. If you're thinking that name sounds vaguely familiar, well, Dino is the one who made the F-14 Tomcat that I had used for my Tomcattery Across the USA series back when I used to fly in FSX. This is his very first offering for X-Plane, and it is payware. And as you can see, he put a lot of love into this thing. So we're going to see how it flies, and we're actually going to take it for the first leg of this tour. We might pull it up a little bit later on in the series, but I kind of want to showcase different aircraft each leg that we do this tour in. Ultimately, we're going to be stopping in Key West, but for right now, I am going to show you our course tonight to get to Tallahassee. And even though I've got the little iPad here, I'm going to show you where we are on the map. I'm actually going to be using SkyVector to lay out exactly where we intend to fly. Okay, so how to read this map. We are going to be starting from the very left side, or the west side of the map, and we're going to be flying towards the east. So we are currently at Kilo November Papa Alpha, which is, of course, Naval Air Station Pensacola. We're going to be following the coastline until we reach the VOR known as Delta Whiskey Golf, which is right at Eglin Air Force Base, or Kilo Victor Papa Sierra. Then we're going to dogleg a little bit to the south, and we're going to continue following the coastline until we hit Tyndall Air Force Base, which the VOR for that is Papa Alpha Mike, and of course the ICAO code is Kilo Papa Alpha Mike. Once we reach Tyndall Air Force Base, we're going to turn inland a little bit and head east-northeast to Tallahassee, and we're going to come down probably on runway 18, but we'll see what active sky throws at us. But Tallahassee is definitely our last stop for today. Okay, so now we know where we're going. We now have the task of getting this aircraft started up. All right, now, Dino did put some systems in there, but this is not going to be like completely, totally full systems modeling. But a lot of the important stuff is in there. So the parking brake is on, and we'll get our battery switch on here. There we go. Looks like everything's coming to life. We'll flip the inverters later, but for now I want to turn on our beacon light since we're going to be doing an engine start. And we'll head over to this side here. And there's a couple of things that we're going to want to turn on. Let's see. The first thing that we want to turn on here is going to be our fuel shutoff. So there we go. We'll push that in. And we'll get this switch on. I think that's the ECU if I'm not too mistaken. And our auxiliary fuel pump, we'll turn that on. Okay, so we're pretty much ready for engine start. So cast your attention to these gauges here, and that's what we're going to monitor for engine start. So we're going to hold down the start switch for a few seconds here. There we go. Look at that. She is coming to life. We'll put the throttle into the idle position while we're at it here. And voila. It looks like we've got a pretty good engine start. Everything is holding steady. You can see there. All right. Good deal. Okay. So now that we've gotten that done, let's get our generator on. And we'll also flip this switch on as well. There we go, that's our inverters. We can turn off the auxiliary fuel pump for now. We're going to need to turn it on again for takeoff, but for now we'll concentrate on getting our transponder on. The radios are already on, and we'll get our nav lights on as well. Okay, everything's looking good. I know I already had our weather brief, so our altimeter should be set. And I do want to listen to that brief.
Kilo, November, Papa, Alpha, airport information, Juliet 1356, Zulu, weather, wind, calm, visibility 10, sky clear, temperature 12, 2.12, altimeter 3012. Advise on initial contact, you have information, Juliet.
Okay, so information, Juliet, and dang, that was a little bit loud there. That was actually the...
Kilo,
That was actually the weather brief from Active Sky. If you punch in 122.00, it'll actually give you the weather brief for Active Sky and not in X-Plane. Alright, our canopy's closed. Next order of business, we need to do a full controls wipeout and make sure that all our flaps and speed brakes and everything are working. So for that, we're going to go outside. Alright, so everything checks out, and we'll do a quick scan of all the gauges and switches, make sure that everything is in the right position. One small complaint that I do have is with the sound. It's a little bit off. The oxygen doesn't work either. However, we do have oxygen in the aircraft, so if we were to go over like 10,000 feet, we would actually start having oxygen. It's just that the switches themselves don't work. Alright, I want to call attention to this little guy here. This is our airspeed indicator, and I think this is probably one of the coolest things in this jet because it actually reminds me of the F-14 Tomcat one. If you are familiar with the DCS Tomcat, or any of the other Tomcats for that matter, yeah, that airspeed indicator is a little bit funky looking, and it takes some getting used to. So when I saw that, I was like, oh yeah, I know what that is. Alright, well, we're pretty much good to go, so parking brake is off, and we are going to taxi to runway 25 left. Our plan is we're going to take off to the west. They did say the winds are calm, so we can pretty much pick whichever direction we want to go. By default, I'm going to choose 25 left because, well, we're closer to that end of the runway than we are to 7 right, so I think that'll work in our favor here. Okay, so at this intersection, taxiway Alpha, we're going to need to make a right. And I want to say that there is some kind of museum or something close to the end of the airport. We'll have to check it out. We'll go to the outside view and then we'll come back in and check out what I think is the museum, because I notice it's got a lot of old aircraft. In fact, you might even be able to see some ahead to the right. Alright, well, enough of my yammering for now. Let's go back to the outside view. I alluded to the museum earlier, and there it is, right there. Of course, I have actually been to this museum. This is the Pensacola Naval Air Museum. And if you know anything about me or my Facebook profile, you will actually find a picture of me sitting in the cockpit of an F-14 Tomcat at that museum. So there we go. That was a nice little touch that Freddie Dupuis of NAPS did with this airport to include the museum in there. Pretty cool stuff. Okay, but on to the task at hand. We are here at runway 25 left, and we're going to park it like right here. There we go. That should work for now, and that way we can do our final checks and, of course, make sure that everything is good to go. So we have no traffic currently, which is kind of weird considering the fact that I'm running traffic global, but I will live with it. We'll turn our landing lights on, and we also need to turn our strobe lights on, so we'll get those on there. Okay, everything else is looking pretty good. I can't think of anything I may have missed. Oh, auxiliary fuel pump, might as well turn that on. Alright, I think we are ready to go. So let's go ahead and take the active runway. Here we go, rolling down the runway. Okay, so we are lining up on runway 25 left. You'll notice those white markings to the left that are kind of obscuring the 2 and the 25. That is a mock-up of a carrier runway landing area. This is one of those air bases where they actually train pilots how to come in and land on the carrier. So oftentimes they'll rig up cables and so on and so forth to help them land. Okay, everything appears to be good. I'm just setting our pitch trim, and all our instruments are checking out okay. So it's time for brakes down, throttles up. We'll get our throttle up to probably about full military power here, or close to it. We'll get our brakes off, and here we go, go, go. Alright, another successful takeoff, and now we can start to see the beauty that is Orbx TrueEarth Florida. Just so you are aware, there are 2 versions of this Orbx TrueEarth Florida. There's the HD or high definition version, and there's the SD or standard definition version. Naturally, the SD is a little bit cheaper than the HD, but I would suggest if you are going to pick this thing up, you get the HD version, and here's why. When you pick up the HD version, you also get the SD version for free with it. So right now what we're looking at here is the SD version, and the major reason why I have done that, whenever I record these videos, my recording tool that I use to actually make the flight, to record the flight, it does tend to rob FPS. So obviously I want to, give myself a fighting chance to show you something that doesn't look like a complete slideshow, even though there will probably be parts of this video that might be a little bit worse for wear. So what I've done is I've actually used the SD version for the purposes of this video, and we may switch it up. We might actually do the HD version a little bit later on in our flight. But the main thing that I've done with the SD version is I've also turned the textures up to the max textures that are possible with X-Plane. So it still retains a lot of the beauty, mostly over 2,500 feet. The main difference between the HD and the SD is when you get down low. Everything below 2,500 feet is going to look a little bit blurry on the SD. So let's say, for example, you're a helicopter aviator. You're going to want to have the HD in there because the HD looks that much crisper and clearer at lower altitudes. But as you can see right about now, we are close to about 4,000 feet, and if you look below, you can see just how seamlessly the NAP's Pensacola Naval Air Station blends in with the Orbx scenery. And the other thing that I really love is the fact that Orbx has actually taken the time to stretch out the scenery into the water so that you can see the intricate marbling that does tend to happen with waters that are shallow in Florida. You will see it here. You will probably see it around Tampa and around the eastern coast as well. And you're going to notice it mostly in the Florida Keys, which, as I stated earlier, is going to be our final destination, Key West. That's where this scenery really shines. But since I've shown Key West so many times on this channel, I figured for the purposes of this tour, we're going to start at the northern end of the state, or in this case, in the northwestern end of the state, and we're going to work our way south. So this particular mini-series will actually end once we get to Key West, and by which time we should have been able to see all of Florida, because we plan on traveling all over the dang place, and hopefully you'll get a really good idea as to how this scenery does pan out. I will say this, just with my couple of flights that I've done prior to actually doing this recording, Orbx automatically gets 2 full thumbs up from me for this, because as a Florida native, even though I no longer live in Florida, I live in Pennsylvania, I gotta say they absolutely nailed the look of Florida. As we make our way down the Gulf Coast of Florida here, I want to point out a couple of things with this aircraft that I've noticed. Now, these aren't necessarily huge detractors from the aircraft, because like I mentioned, this is Dino's first effort into X-Plane, and I welcome the man. For years I've been telling him he needs to get into X-Plane. But one of the things that I've noticed on this thing, aside from the fact that the sound is a little bit off, which I expect, I mean, Dino's not a sound engineer, there is no GPS, so thankfully we've got this little X-pad here, which of course shows us quite clearly on the map heading straight towards our first waypoint, Delta Whiskey Golf. So yeah, that kind of works, but just full disclosure for you guys, I'm actually cheating a little bit. I actually have the little GPS module open, and I do have this aircraft on autopilot, and I have the nav hold being used. Now, one thing you're going to notice as we're flying straight and level here is that we're actually oscillating from one side to the other. Why is that? That apparently is a little quirk with this aircraft, and I can't quite pin it all on Dino because I really don't know if the real S-211 does that. I do know that this thing does not obviously have a GPS, and I imagine navigation is probably kind of old school. This is the kind of aircraft that you're probably going to want to hand fly most of the time, but at least it is holding its course, even if it is kind of rocking side to side like a little boat. That having been said, I gotta give Dino major kudos for bringing this aircraft over, and I can't wait to see what else he's gonna bring to the X-Plane world. Ladies and gentlemen, make no bones about it, Florida is a big state. Granted, it's no California or Texas, but it's still a massive state in its own right. So when I look at, for example, Hurlburt Field directly up ahead and see how seamlessly Orbx has managed to mesh it in with the surrounding terrain, or even further ahead, that's actually Eglin Air Force Base. That's our first waypoint. It kind of looks like you're looking at a picture. It's just awesome. And that, I think, is the real beauty and the real selling point behind the TrueEarth line. Of course, I've already shown you the UK. I have still yet to show you Oregon and Washington, as well as California. But you can just see from this scenery alone why this thing is definitely worth the money. And I think this is the kind of stuff that X-Plane needs more of. Alright, so we are at our first waypoint. This is Eglin Air Force Base, or Kilo Victor Papa Sierra, and it contains the VOR that we're using for navigation. You can see Destin Airport over there, and shortly, a little further down the road, is Fort Walton Beach. So yeah, those are all areas that I've been to in real life, and I gotta say, this is a part of Florida that I really enjoy. There are other areas that I really enjoy that I'm going to be showing you in other legs of this journey. But for now, let's begin our course change to waypoint 2. Okay, so we are now on course for our next waypoint, which is going to be Panama City. We still have our autopilot-induced oscillation, as I'm beginning to call it here. Let me zoom out just a touch here. So we've got some of the most beautiful Gulf Coast coastline coming up. So what I'm going to do is a little bit of shenanigans, so that way I can show you exactly what this aircraft is capable of. You'll notice that we've got wing pylons on there, so it is possible for us to put like drop tanks and so on and so forth. I have not experimented with that, so I really cannot comment on that. I don't know if Dino has actually put the models in there for drop tanks and so on. But I imagine the more weight that you add to this light little bird is probably the more sluggish it is going to fly, and ain't nobody got time for that. Yes, baby, yes. This is how I like to fly, down in the weeds with my hair on fire, and we're just going to skirt this coastline until we hit Panama City. I'll throw a little bit of rolls in there, and maybe we'll do a loop-the-loop as well. But now you can actually see what I was talking about earlier. Because I'm using the SD and not the HD version currently, everything does look a little bit blurry down low. If I would have been using the HD version, you can see there's a distinct difference in just how sharp this scenery actually is when you get really low to the deck. But I can live with it for right now. I do have to admit, I am kind of surprised about one thing. If you know anything about Orbx, you know that a lot of their airport sceneries, for the various flight sims that they do make scenery for, a lot of times they will tend to add in people and so on and so forth. For the TrueEarth line, however, obviously that is, I guess, largely impractical to put like millions of people all over the place. It just wouldn't work like that. However, I think this was kind of a missed opportunity, because having been to this beach in real life, there's definitely people on there. So I think there could have been some concession made for certain areas, like here, or perhaps when we get to Miami, we could, see the same thing around South Beach, or even around the Florida Keys. I think adding a little bit of extra people would have been a cool thing. So I hope you like the little shenanigans that I had to do, because hello, I'm in a fighter jet here. I might as well show you some of the maneuvers that it can do. Granted, I don't think I'm going to go dogfighting anytime soon with this bird, but I will definitely do some more aerobatics at some point. Alright, I think that's enough shenanigans for the day here. We are closing in on Panama City. We're actually over Panama City right now. You can see it right there. And on the opposite side is going to be the airport that we are using as our waypoint. So just to remind you, that is actually Tyndall Air Force Base that we're going to be using as our waypoint. And actually we're just using the VOR at that airport. So you can see the inlet right there. looking pretty good. I love the fact that Orbx took the time to do the color matching and everything, because if you've ever been to the Gulf Coast on one of these Florida beaches, that's pretty much what it looks like. There is our airport off in the distance. That is Tyndall, so that is where we're going to be heading to. I will put us back on course here, and we'll get the autopilot going once more for the last leg. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Tyndall Air Force Base. You can see it there off to the left with its distinctive parallel runways. Alright, looking sharp. So far, I have yet to find something in this Orbx scenery that just doesn't match up to what I know in real life. Bear in mind, of course, that I've never been to a lot of the Air Force bases that we're passing right now. Obviously, Pensacola, I mentioned before, I've been to. But like Tyndall or Eglin, I've never had the pleasure of actually being there. So I've got to basically go on what I've seen, you know, with Google and of course in the various flight sims that I've used. But I would say right now that looks like an Air Force base. That looks exactly like I would expect Tyndall Air Force Base to look. So you know what? I'm not going to complain at all. I'm just going to roll with it. Now, the beauty of X-Plane is the fact that it's so modular. So actually, NAPS makes scenery for all of these airports. I just happen to only have the Pensacola one, but I would like to get the others, provided their website is still working. But look at this. This is one really cool thing that I want to point out to you. What you're looking at here is Sandy Creek Air Park, and it is significant because it's a neighborhood of aviation lovers who have their own planes, and their entire neighborhood is built around the airport. It is the coolest thing ever. There's a couple of places like this in Florida, and actually around the U.S. you'll find other places like this as well. John Travolta, the actor, of course, he lives in a neighborhood like this, so his house actually has a driveway that doubles as a taxiway, so he can taxi his plane onto the main drag, which just happens to be a runway. You're going to find that, and these are the little jewels that I believe Orbx has put in this thing that really make it worthwhile, especially if you're a low and slow GA pilot or you've got like your Piper Cub or whatnot. That is definitely the coolest thing, to just fly into these little neighborhoods. Personally, I would love to live in something like this in real life. I don't think it will ever happen, and I'm sure the buy-in is probably incredible, not to mention the homeowners association fees. But man, that's the kind of stuff that I love to see in scenery. Alright, so let's just move our little map here. Let me zoom it into Tallahassee. There we go. So as you can see, we are on the final leg of this portion of our journey. And let's get our weather briefing really quick here. We'll see what they say about what we can expect to come in.
Kilo Papa Alpha Mike Airport information Lima 1404 Zulu weather wind calm visibility 10 sky clear temperature 12 dew point 10 altimeter 3016 advise on initial contact. You have information Lima.
Okay, our barometer has changed. We're now at 3016, so we'll listen to that again.
Kilo Papa Alpha Mike Airport Airport information, Lima 1404, Zulu, weather, wind, calm, visibility 10, sky clear, temperature 12, dew point 10, altimeter 3016. Advise on initial contact. You have information, Lima.
Alright, well that's all fine and well, but unfortunately the weather briefing that it's giving us is for Tyndall Air Force Base. What we need is weather briefing for Tallahassee. So, let's first see what radio channel we are on. We can pull that up with the ATC. Alright, so we are currently on, it looks like Jacksonville Center, 124.7, I think it's 0.77, if I'm not too mistaken. Alright, we're going to want to change it so that we can get the ATIS for Tallahassee. And how we do that is we're going to go to the map window, click that up, and I can push that forward so that way you can see it a little bit better. Stretch that out. Global traffic, or traffic global, is also included in this, so we'll get rid of the parked aircraft. And we're going to zoom into Tallahassee. It's in there somewhere. There's just so much writing all over this map. Sheesh. Alright, but there it is. There's Tallahassee, so we'll click on it. And we'll go to Details. And the very first thing under Communications is ATIS. So we want frequency 119.450. Okay. I can do that. Since we know where our radio is, we'll go ahead and change that really quick here. So it's currently at 122. We're going to set that to 119. And we want what? 450, I believe it was. Should be right there. And now we can listen to the weather. Wait a minute. No, we cannot. Okay, that's at 120. We want 119.
Tallahassee Regional Information Alpha. 1400 Zulu weather. Wind 190 at 8, visibility more than 10. Sky clear, temperature 11, dew point -19. Altimeter 3017. Arriving runways 2718, departing runways 2718. Advise on initial contact. You have Alpha.
Now you know why I wanted the correct airport, so that way we can get the proper ATIS and barometric pressure. And if you look over there, you will see the Apalachicola River, which is one of the more major rivers in this part of Florida. It looks like they did it justice, because it does in fact have all of those sandbars and so on. So that was pretty cool. Alright, so we now know that we are coming in on runway 18 in Tallahassee, so we are going to go back to the outside view as we prepare for our initial descent. I would be remiss if I didn't give you some quick facts about this aircraft. So it originally flew on April the 10th, 1981, and it was in production from 1981 to 1994. It has seen some limited use with various air forces around the world, including Singapore, Haiti, and I believe the Philippines actually still have them in active duty. And there's Tallahassee directly up ahead. The runway we're looking for is running left to right on your screen right now, so that means I'm going to need to make a left-hand turn to get into the pattern. We'll do that momentarily. Continuing our quick facts, as you can see outside, this aircraft has a crew of 2. Its length is 30 feet 7 inches, wingspan of 27 feet 8 inches, height of about 12 feet 6 inches, and it's powered by one Pratt & Whitney Canada JT-15D -4D turbofan. That'll give us a max speed of Mach 0.8, cruise speed of about 360 knots, roughly around 25,000 feet, service ceiling of 40,000 feet, and even though this thing is great as a trainer in aerobatics, it has been used in a bombing and rocket launcher platform capacity. Alright, we are beginning our turn, and then we'll start our descent momentarily. Thinking I'm probably going to line us up with that lake off to the left side. I forget the name of the lake, and I don't have time to look it up right now, so there will probably be a pop-up explaining what lake that is. Oh, one thing I did want to mention really quick about this aircraft that I didn't mention before is the fact that there are a number of them in civilian use, in particular with Australia and with the United States. This particular livery that we're rocking is actually a private livery, so it does have an N registration number for flight around the United States. So I did want to mention that to you, and if you're ever thinking of picking one up yourself, you can expect to pay roughly about $3.4 million for one of these birds. Is it worth it? I don't know. I guess Dino will have to tell us for sure if it is worth purchasing in real life. But I can tell you, so far, I am enjoying the ever-living heck out of this aircraft, and I would definitely say this one is worth purchasing for X-Plane 11. Alright, speed brakes are out, we are over the lake, and I've got a plan of attack in order to bring us down here. So just to the north or northeast of this lake is going to be a major interstate. It is I-10. I-10 runs east to west and will take us all the way to Jacksonville if we were driving along there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little bit of a nap of the earth flying here and do a little bit of VFR approach. We're going to use I-10 as our guide. As a matter of fact, let me see if I can zoom it in for you there. There you go. You can probably see that long and large gray line going across from left to right. That is I-10. So we're going to follow I-10 until it meets up with Route 90 and eventually Route 263. Route 263 runs parallel to runway 18, so that is what we want. So pretty much that will help to guide us in on this approach here. So we're going to fly a little bit to the east here, and that way we will be on an exaggerated base leg, and then we can look out for I-10 and follow it all the way home. Alright, so far so good. If I recall correctly on that weather briefing, we don't have a whole heck of a lot of wind to contend with, so we should be okay. You can see I-10 directly up ahead, so we are going to follow that to the right, and that will put us in a pretty good position to go ahead and bring this bird in. Our altitude's looking good. We're just about 2,000 feet. Our speed is coming down nicely, so in a few moments I'll put the flaps down and then eventually also the gear. We have two settings for the flaps. There's of course takeoff and landing flaps. So right about now I'm going to put down the takeoff flaps. There we go. Flaps are very loud in this aircraft, disproportionately loud to the sound of the engine, but you know what? Like I said, I'm going to let that slide, Dino, because I know you're not a sound engineer. But yeah, there you go. Alright, gear's coming down right now. Okay, and we have that lovely gear and flap sound. I'm going to pull us down to full flaps. Okay, alright, there's the intersection I was looking for. That is I-10 to your left and Route 90 to the right. So we are actually going to closely follow Route 90, and remember, we are looking for Route 263 because that's the one that's going to run parallel to the runway, and that'll tell me for sure if I'm properly lined up. Okay, so our two highways are diverging. You can see I-10 there and Route 90 on that side. So we're actually going to pass the Tallahassee power plant, which is that massive structure right there. And Orbx did do a very good job of that because that's literally exactly what it looks like. So nicely done, Orbx. Alright, let me do my landing checks real quick here. Okay, everything's good. Flaps down full, gears down. Okay, hey, look at that. There's a little rest stop there on I-10. That's an interesting feature. I didn't know that Orbx had added that. That's pretty cool. Huh. I've probably stopped at that rest stop, too, at some point in time between driving from Jacksonville to, like, Pensacola and them areas. Alright, so that was neat. Okay, so there's our runway directly ahead. We are still waiting for Route 263. We should be coming up to it pretty soon. If I remember correctly, there's a very large shopping plaza right at that intersection, so we'll look for that. Alright, let's hear it for Orbx visual landmarks. There is the shopping center that I was looking for with the giant super Walmart. So this is where we're going to make our turn. And we're going to continue following Route 263, which is that one right there. You can see it kind of swings out a little bit to the left, so that way it is out of the way of our final course. But right there, you can see it's lined up just nicely, so we're looking good. One thing I don't know is whether I'm on glide slope. Let's find out with the magic binoculars here. Okay, it says I'm a little bit high. Yep, I've got all white, and you know what they say, all white, you'll fly all night. So we don't want that. We're going to need to cut the power a little bit and bring her down for the proper glide slope. And this right here, folks, showcases the beauty of the Orbx TrueEarth Florida. I basically just did a complete VFR approach using landmarks. It really doesn't get any better than this, unless, of course, we're talking Microsoft Flight Simulator, but that's not ready yet. So we have this in X-Plane, and it works. All right. I love it. I absolutely love it. Okay, so we are still a little bit high on glide slope. Got to drop a little power here. And I'm going to go to the outside view. Okay, too much power. Let's pull her back up. I want to land on the runway, not on the approach lights. That would be bad. All right, enough of my yammering, folks. Let's bring this bird home. Oh, mama, she was a little bit touchy there. Holy crap, that is a floater of a landing. So, my apologies to you, but hey, you know what? We're down. We're safe. And now we need to find a good parking spot. I'm thinking where that orange hangar is, but I'm going to swing out this way and we'll make our way in there. So, yeah, what do you think so far? Orbx TrueEarth Florida, in my opinion, is a hit. They have knocked this one out of the park, and I'm only in the panhandle of Florida. So what's coming next? For our second leg, we're going to be flying out of Tallahassee. We're probably going to use a different aircraft, and we're going to be heading to Jacksonville along the Atlantic coast in the northernmost part of Florida. I love it. Right on the money. Okay, so we are here. So, just so you are aware, I do not have any kind of scenery add-on for this particular airport. So what we're looking at here is default X-Plane mixed in with the Orbx TrueEarth scenery. And the reason why I did that is just to show you that there really is no difference between this and, say, add-on scenery like the Naps airport that we took off from. Everything meshes perfectly with Orbx, and honestly, if you haven't been convinced yet to go out and buy this thing, then you might want to check your pulse. Just to remind you folks, this has been the Siai Marchetti S-211 by Dino Cattaneo, aka India Fox Deco. It is payware. It is his first payware with X-Plane. I highly recommend you get it. We've been using Orbx TrueEarth Florida. We've actually been using the SD version, but I also have the HD version, which I will show you later. If you enjoy what you've seen, please feel free to give me a like, and don't forget to subscribe. And I will be back with leg number 2 sometime in the very, very near future. This is BelGeode signing out with X-Plane 11, and I will talk to you later. Ciao!